This episode of the Turf District podcast is brought to you by Taproot Edmonton, which publishes curiosity-driven stories, topical newsletters, and locally focused podcasts, all in the service of informing Edmontonians about their community. Taproot has launched a project to find out what you want the candidates to be talking about as they compete for your votes in the 2021 municipal election. It's called The People's Agenda. Visit taprootedmonton.ca to indicate what your key issue is. Taproot's team will use these responses to create an agenda that reflects the priorities of the people. This will shape their coverage leading up to the election in October of 2021. This project needs to hear from as many Edmontonians as possible, so add your voice today at taprootedmonton.ca. Enjoy the show.
Hey, fellas, we ain't gonna ever back down from nobody. I don't care who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied. One of us go down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight. So let's hit this field and bang them, bang them, bang them. Somebody light me up.
It's time to huddle up. It's the Turf District podcast. Back to the Turf District, where we huddle up and talk all things Edmonton football team and the CFL. We are a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Of course, we are also part of the Canadian Football Podcast Network, and check out all those shows at CFPN. I'm Andrew.
And I'm the commissioner.
Hey!
Well, Commissioner Kay. Well, I'm one of them.
Look at that. You got it without Mike here. I'm so impressed.
I know. I was like, should I wait just for effect, you know? A little silence.
It would have been great. I'd have laughed again. That would have been fantastic. Yeah. Unfortunately, no superfan this evening, but he will be back in a couple of weeks. Before we get right into all of our guests, I do want to say a big thank you to everyone who shared the show from a couple of weeks ago with JMO. We asked people to join in and kind of get involved, and they really did. And so I really, really appreciate it. Keep plugging out there for us. We just so that more people can find us under this new iteration. That is fantastic. And we got lots of good reviews, including one from my son that is titled "Great Podcast, I'm Andrew's Son," which absolutely made me laugh so hard. It was fantastic. And then I went and said, "Oh, thanks, buddy. That's a really good one." So yeah, you know what? Hey, if he's not giving me 5 stars, I don't know. I'm out of luck at that point. So that's.
Yeah, I gotta go tell my mom to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. If she could write it in, I'm Kayla's mom, or I'm Mama Jedi, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate that. If you haven't caught it yet, check out that show with JMO, because he tells some amazing stories once again, and he's just so entertaining to listen to. We love having JMO on, and we're hoping to have him back before too terribly long, because it's just a great thing.
He should write a book, really.
It really should. Really should. I'd be all over it. Absolutely. We'd promote the hell out of that, because it'd be so great. Well, we have an interesting show tonight, Kayla. We brought some guests in here. I'm going to steal this from Superfan, because he did post on Twitter a new team name for us, the Edmonton Existentialists, because we're at the moment now where we are constantly asking, who are we? Right. And that can also apply to the CFL in general. So excellent timing. So to answer that and a whole bunch of other questions, we have a wonderful roundtable tonight. We'll start from farthest away, coming to us all the way from Chicago, joining us from CFL Films and soon a podcast, the one and only Greg Smith, better known as Smitty. How you doing, man?
Doing good, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
Thank you. Welcome.
What is this new podcast going to be called?
Scott Adamson and I, who wrote the book, you know what? I feel bad because I've got the title right on the title, but he wrote a book.
Yeah.
Scott is a retired sports writer from Birmingham, Alabama, who wrote a love letter, a book, but it's basically a love letter to Birmingham football. All the pro teams that have existed in Birmingham, including the Barracudas, the old Stallions. But it's called. You know what? I apologize. I should have that right. He's going to kill me as he's listening to this.
Building anticipation. That's what you're
right.
doing.
Yeah,
exactly. Look up Scott Adamson.
Perfect.
On Amazon.
Scott Adamson CFL book.
We'll come back. We'll come back.
We'll come back to it. Okay. Okay. What's the podcast going to be called, though?
It's a good question. Right now, our tentative title is Hot Reads, a football book podcast.
Lovely.
And we're still in the planning stages.
That's fantastic.
So hopefully in the next few weeks, I'm trying to do I've already put one request out for one author for an interview. Haven't heard anything back because it's George R.R. Martin.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
It's nothing like shooting for the stars first. Yeah.
I figured, let's give it a shot. And Scott and I were talking today, and I'm like, think you can get Joe Willie Namath? He goes, let's get the podcast started first, and then let's try doing it.
Scott seems to be the level head in this particular situation.
He is the professional level-headed one of both of us.
Excellent. Oh, I'm glad you're here, Smitty. This is going to be fun. Let's travel a bit more west to the big rectangle to the east of us, to the one and only Sheldon Jones from the Piffles website. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Jolly. Yes. Jolly. That's a new one.
I like that. Popped out. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
It's blizzarding here currently, so jolly is a good thing to feel.
Yeah, we should all have elf hats on. That's right. You kind of have an elf hat on. Oh, that was okay. That's the last shot I'll take. That was. Come on, though. Come on. Yeah, it's good. You're on an Edmonton podcast. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you for joining us, Sheldon. I know you were on the Piffles pod one time, but we're amazing that we thought we'd have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been fun. Those guys are great, and I like writing for them. Apparently, they like what I write, so it's good. And I've got some lifelong friendships out of it now, so I'm happy.
That's awesome. And before we go at the end of the show, we'll go through your spin art, and we'll tell everybody where they can find that because it's friggin' awesome. So that CFL one behind you has to be in this room sooner or later. Yeah. So I will get in touch with you on that.
Red.
It does have red, but I'll let it go.
Your room needs red.
No, my room's lovely. It's beautiful the way it is. It's so nice. You that voice you heard, our last guest coming from straight down south, from the CFL Horsemen, the one and only Stephanie Hudson. Welcome to the Turf District.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think this is your second time on the show. I think we had you on for a preview.
Roundtable.
Yeah, one time before, right? Yeah. So welcome back.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you.
You're going to get a lot more calm energy from this one than your normal horseman guest.
Calm energy and less abusive. Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. As soon as I said we have another guest from Horseman, the initial response was, "Oh God, not." No, it is. It's we're happy to have Ryan here. He's our favorite villain. He's fantastic, and I get some really good laughs with him. So I am glad that you were here as well, and we can have a calm and what's the word? I want to say rational conversation about the rest of things that are going on. Let's get into the biggest question that's going on right now. We've been in lockdown for basically a year. So what is everybody's favorite drink? Don't all answer at once.
Ready?
Oh, here comes
water.
Water. Well,
once I get a nice cold glass of milk, I'm good.
Oh,
milk. What did you have, Sheldon?
Well, Diet Coke, but I've actually I've always I've never really been a beer guy, but I've started to try to sample some craft beer, and I found some good ones in Rebellion in Regina that are pretty awesome.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's about it.
fancy.
I can't live without my coffee.
Oh, yeah.
I never used to drink it until a year ago, and now I can't live without it.
Really?
And I'm kind of a snob. I do all the local roasters. So
Well,
yeah, quite.
I should send. There's a really good roaster in Calgary, Kay. You're gonna need to send.
Who is it?
521.
Oh, I love Fratellos.
It's a local firefighter.
Oh my. Okay, I'm on board.
that perked Kayla's attention in more than one way. Yeah. And the pun was totally intended with the perked. Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Before we get into real news, this is real news. I meant CFL news. I missed it on the show 2 weeks ago, and I'm really embarrassed about it, about not mentioning the passing of Chris Schultz. And he was big for me because he when I really started to understand the game and watch more, he was on the panel. And the panel is where I learned so much about the game that I just would never have got otherwise. So he meant a lot to me as far as it was a big loss, both literally and figuratively. And I only ever got to meet him once, but just a giant of a gentle man, though. And much like everyone else says, he'd shake your hand and it would be like he'd be shaking your whole arm because his hands are so big. And but he was just a great personality for the CFL. And I know I've gone back. Mike has been, showing me some of these older games and they're on ESPN Classic, and there's Schultz doing the intros and things like that. And he just had a real passion for the game. So, did any of you have specific memories with Schultz that are just things that stood out to you? Sheldon, let's start with you this time.
Not so much memories. We didn't actually ever get to meet him, but when we went to Grey Cup 100 in Toronto, my wife and my brother-in-law and my sister went, and we saw him from afar when we were at Ryderville or something like that. Nice guy, but the thing that I remember the most about him is on the panel, like you said. But there was always Jock, and he always seemed so anti-West, and he was such a homer for the Alouettes, and so it was frustrating. And then you had Dunnigan, who was just goofy. He still liked him, but goofy. And but Schultz was the guy who was business, and he always was so insightful. And yeah, I'm gonna miss him a lot. I've missed him on the panel since he left, but at least Argo fans got to hear him on the radio there. But yeah, I miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. Steph, what about you?
Yeah, I never actually got to meet him,
Okay.
But on the panel, his passion for the game shone. You knew that this man just lived football, and you couldn't help but want to know more about the game. And I think that really, he really helped me get into the game. I learned a lot. He was just so inviting.
Yeah, I agree. Kayla?
I mean, it's hard to disagree with that too. I don't know any situations where I've encountered him. I don't think I could have walked past him. I don't know. Who knows? It's great. It's Grey Cup. No one's ever that coherent. But all I know is when I hear the panel or CFL, all I hear is them calling him Schultz.
Right.
So I think Schultz and I think CFL automatically. So that's just he is the CFL. And I don't know what it's going to be like without him.
Oh, that's a great one. Now, Smitty, I know you and I had talked that you probably mostly only got to see him doing those classic games.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I know I've seen him on the panel. And that's the sad part about us fans here in the States with CFL football. A lot of me and I know a few other people, including Scott Adamson, kind of coming in late to the personalities and the voices of the game up there. So when I've heard him, it's always been on the panel. So when I heard his passing, I'm like, first of all, I mean, we're kind of close in age, so that was the first thing that kind of struck me. But yeah, it was, pretty with everybody else, him being on the panel. Again, it was one of those voices, even for me coming new into the game, from the States, it was always a recognizable voice.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that when he was on the panel, he was talking about that stuff that was happening in the trenches. I think that was the first guy on a panel that I ever heard talk about that. Because it was always, the quarterback is doing this and the receivers are this and the linebackers are all over and this. But we didn't really hear much of like, this is what's going on right in the trenches where the game is lost and won. And Schulte just had a magnificent way of telling us the stories of what was going on in that line, other than just big guys line up, hit each other, right? It was, watch this guy and this type of move and how this works and that stuff. Again, for trying to learn the game. If the CFL ever gets to putting some of these classic games up like they have with the Grey Cup and that type of thing, I hope they include some of those halftime things, and you can just learn so much from Schulte and his passion and just learning in general. So it was amazing. That's okay.
One other thing, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but his passion for tackle hunger too.
Yeah.
Because I love when anything like where you can help, try to fight hunger, and so like everyone gets excited for that tackle hunger game, and you take your non-perishables, and so hopefully Styles can continue that legacy there.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, that was a huge deal. And I remember it was always for me, it's like, yeah, Schulte said we got to do this, so we take our money there, and then I'm going to get a picture with the Grey Cup. It's fantastic. It was the only way we'd ever get close, right? And then so it's amazing. Let's move up to some present day stuff that is going on. We touched on it on the YouTube Live, but the CFL sends a proposal to the CFLPA talking about now here's the positive spin on it, is they'd like to get started on time. On the other hand, the downside of that is that they're asking the players to take the 20% pay cut while there's no fans in the stands. So again, a positive is, well, they're looking at possibly playing games without fans, which means at least we get to watch something. That's exciting. But this comes at a cost to the players for sure. Now the plan does have, as fans increase, so does the pay. So that's a good thing. But tell me, what was your first reaction to this? Steph, I'm going to start with you because you're connected with a lot of these players.
Yeah. So I feel bad for the guys that went into free agency going, all right, I will take the cut. I know that they didn't make money last year, so I'm taking the cut. So a second cut has got to be really hard. Right. But I don't know if it's a full cut or if they can earn that money back as fans come in, and how they're going to decide like what teams and percentages of, like, if BC does their circuit breaker and they can get lots of people in the stands, and Ontario, you can't have any. Are the BC players making more? Is it an aggregate? Is it an average? So it's really complicated. But I think it was Eric Rogers who brought up the guys that have performance bonuses are going to be really pushing for as long a season as possible, because there's a lot of bonuses that aren't possible if you don't play a full season. So it's a full other layer that you go, whew, it's complicated.
Yeah.
I never really thought that.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that either. Yeah, that was I didn't think about having so many games in that would help. So, Sheldon, what was your first take on this? And I know you and I chatted about it a bit, so I'm kind of laying you up here, but still.
Well, like I'm trying to be in the middle. I'm trying to be Switzerland. Like there's no league without the players, but there's no players without the league, right? So, I get that it's tough ask for them to take another cut. But if that's what it takes, like a paycheck is better than no paycheck, in my opinion. But I know that some of those guys making league minimum, that's getting really thin for whether it's worth it to come up here or not, right? So, but with what you just said, Steph, I'm wondering if the PA can maybe counter back with some sort of proration with the bonuses like that, because that would be good. The one thing that's always tough for me to swallow, I guess, is the players seem to always fold. Whenever the negotiations happen, they have this united front and they stand up, and then at the last second, it's like the CFL gives them one little thing, right? And then they take it, and then they spin it as a win, and then the CFL spins it as a win. So I would like to see the players have a little bit more of a backbone on this issue, but at the same time, is now the right time for that? I don't know.
That's fair. Steph, you thought it looked like you were going to throw something in there.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the first year for it. I think it is. But the league minimum, if they take their 20% cut, will be the same that it was in 2019 or close to it.
Oh, okay.
Like the league minimum jumped from like the 52, 55 to the 65 to compete with XFL salaries. They'd pretty much be going back to that 52. So are those guys really getting a lot less than they could have expected? I mean, the guys that are making the 90 is where they'll feel the cut more, but the minimum guys, so I don't feel so bad for those ones.
Okay. Yeah, well, and you might be you were thinking just get me tape, like whatever, I get to play and I need some tape. So this is where, because I think when it was that low of a league minimum before, I think that was the thought, right? It's like, just let me play. I need to get some tape and I need to do that. So I'm going to come up and show what I can do. And then the money will come after that. Right. So, there's a little bit of show me. And then you can get, I guess the case might be. Yeah. Smitty, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a weird situation. If you think about it, both sides, neither one is going to be bargaining from a position of strength.
Fair, yeah.
The owners have no money, which we know. The players, they have to play, and there's only so many options to get tape. You know, so I don't know. I don't know how. I think there's going to be a lot of kids out there, and I say kids because most of them, everyone who's playing now is old enough to be my kid, which is true. But I think you're going to see a lot of them coming up here who are just going to take the league minimum and say, yeah, let me play. But, you've seen retirements already from a lot of guys, just in the last few days. So I think right now there's going to be a changing of a guard. So say 2 years from now, when everything kind of it's going to be interesting to see where the talent is at because of the financial situation. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a fair point. I'll talk about the retirements in a minute because we need to have Kayla stay with us, and I know she's going to probably tear up. I know when this happened, one of the things that I said was I would love to just see a coach or a GM just stand up and go, okay, you know what? Whatever deal the players get, I'm going to take that same deal, and just to say, like, we all have to be in this together. Like it's not because the unfortunate part when you've got PA and CFL is that it really always looks like it's one against the other and the players always lose. Like you said, Shelton, it always seems like that's the case, right? And to a lot of times, yes, they have. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. They have had that for sure. And then Farhan Lalji was putting out that, all the teams rolled back salaries last year. Those are still in place. There was a bunch of pay cuts across the 9 teams and the CFL office. There was 215 jobs that were eliminated, and he expects like half of those jobs would be reinstated if we have a season. So it's not just the players that took the hit in the first place, but that part never gets talked about. What gets talked about is the players were asked to take a cut because they're going to trying to stay closer to the floor of the salary cap. And now we're asking them to take another cut. And so I just wonder if there needs to be some things where a GM says, yeah, hey, okay. Or a coach even just says, you know what, fine. I'm sticking with my players. I want to play. I want to see them play. Let's let's take, and the same deal. If it scales up, then the coach scales up or whatever. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
Football operations did get cut by 20% this year.
Yes, they did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if we expect a second cut.
Well, and that's what and that's the thing. We don't know that part, right? But that's what I'm saying is the players took a cut already, and now they're asking to be taken another cut. So do we? And again, I'm speaking from a place of complete ignorance because I'm not in a CFL office, so I don't know if they did that and are doing that extra cut as well. Like, we have no idea, but it would just be kind of nice to see them on a united front, is my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a touching point, or a touchy point for the players too, because the coaches still got paid during the pandemic,
Last
right?
year, right?
So they might have had a rollback, but they still got paid. So I think I agree with you, and like some coaches standing up being like, "Yeah, we're going to take a cut." I think that would be a wise thing too, but I don't know. Then you risk losing these coaches too, so that's tough as well. When we've already lost coaches because of this coaches cap,
right?
The Chris Jones rule, if you will, like we definitely saw that in full force here. But that's, I guess, another topic for another day. But yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, Kayla, what do you think about all that?
I'm very ignorant when it comes to like these PA discussions and stuff, and I'm kind of like all of you. Like, I want both sides to win, and sometimes that's just not an option. But in this case, this isn't just like a CFL problem. This is a worldwide problem, so there's got to be solutions somewhere. And if anyone can find them, that's great. But at the same time, like, there just has to be negotiations, or else there's just no football, period. So I don't know how it's really hard to tell when it's not all that transparent to us.
Good point. Smitty, what do you think here when we're talking about an extra cut, but the opportunity that it may start closer to on time?
I don't know. I mean, to me, it just kind of seems like again, it goes back to my question kind of in the beginning. Well, where's the money coming from? Now, we know the TV deal money's coming in. Right. So the question is, and I think somebody raised this on a podcast. So how are they going to do the accounting? How are they going to, and this is where I think that the players are not going to be able to negotiate from a position of strength, but at the same time, the owners, at some point, I think the owners are going to have to open up the books and saying, especially as they move forward with the XFL, to explain, okay, why can't you pay us what you paid us last year? Why the cut? Right. So I don't know. I'm like with Kayla. I'm not, I'm approaching this as a complete outsider, not knowing, sports business management wasn't my major when I was at Western. But with that said, I mean, it just boils down to where's the money, where's the money coming from? And, the CFL has been in bad financial shape, which we all know. I don't know. I don't see how first of all, I don't see how anybody's going to justify a pay raise going forward for a while.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, Steph, how do they do that, right? If one place can have fans and another can't, how do they? Yeah. Is it a league wide? Can we have this much and then it comes back a little bit, or how does that play out? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Sorry, Kayla.
And how would that even work too? If you say, okay, 20% pay cut, and then as fans increase, but what if the fans don't even increase till next season? Like, that's just
possibility. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like, kind of like almost putting you back in a hole. Like, you're moving forward a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like putting you back even more because there's only revenues from TV, and who knows if that even is going to be successful.
Well, TV and merchandise, I guess. I mean, you're still going to have some of that, which, I mean, it's kind of funny when I say this because Edmonton might have a leg up on that, because if they announce the team name early, then we're all going to be throwing our cash at the merchandise, right? Hey, come on now, give me some of that stuff. Let me get me my antlers. Get me my antlers. Yeah. So everybody wants that. So I mean, when it comes down to it, complicated topic. It'd be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. The one thing I will say is that I do think that Solomon Elimimian seems like he's okay. Let's talk about this, and maybe they negotiate. Maybe 20% is a negotiating start point, and maybe they end up at 15 or 13 or something like that, and they're able to fire things up, and we still get to watch what we want to watch. Who knows?
Yeah, and on that point, this is where they're kind of starting, is the numbers that we're hearing. During negotiations, it'll probably be somewhere in the middle.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. Now, we mentioned it maybe because of this, maybe because of just general financial stuff in general. We've had some retirements. Delvin Breaux was the first to announce that he was stepping away. All-star defensive corner. Hard to see guys. Not that I think that he had a ton of years left in the league, but hard to see guys like that go. And then, of course, Kayla, I know this was a tough one for you. Although probably happy he's never putting on that blue and gold outfit. It's, Bryant Mitchell announces his retirement as well. And then there was another one today, Adrian Tracy, I believe, that said that he was stepping away. Do you guys think we'll see a whole lot more of this in the next coming weeks?
I don't think we're done. I don't know that it's going to be as many as we fear.
Okay.
I think guys really want to get back on the field. And I know that it won't be worth it for some of them.
Right.
Like Ricky Collins.
Right.
Jr. Yeah. He was definitely one that did this is not worth it. But I don't know. A lot of these guys, and it's been said for a long time that if you're playing in the CFL, it's because you love the game. These players live and breathe football, and I think if they get the chance to come back, I'm hoping that most of them will.
Fair. Sheldon, what did you think of that?
I agree. Like, it's going to be almost 2 years without football, right? Like, so some of those guys who are getting closer to age, then maybe they just don't want to put in the effort maybe to get back to the game playing shape. I don't know. I can't imagine. I'm not in good shape, so I can't imagine getting ready for this, right? So I think we will see some more. I just hope that we don't see, the bit like losing Delvin Breaux and Bryant Mitchell. Those are two big, huge players. So I don't want to lose any more, of the marquee guys. So I'm hoping that they can stick, but I don't know. It's tough.
I think it's fair to say with all of the guys that Toronto signed that sooner or later there's going to be a retirement out of Toronto, because whether it's a training camp or not, somebody's got to go. Like they have a lot of players, as we all do on all of our rosters. Kayla, how did you feel about the bat signal getting turned off?
I'm still coping.
Okay.
I mean, I completely understand where he's coming from. I'm surprised, but after reading, why he did it, I'm not at the same time. Like, coming or going to the NFL and things just not working out and getting injured, and then you have the chance at the CFL, but who knows if that's even going to pan out this year. And he has, kids to take care of in the South, and I completely understand his reasoning. Again, the only regret that I have as a fan is not being able to see him one last time and just, giving him all the glory that he deserves, because I've been obviously his number one cheerleader. Well, one of his number one cheerleaders since the beginning. But like I told him, in the absence of the bat, the commissioner will stand, and I'll support him and be his buddy for the duration of his life.
Yeah.
That sounds really weird.
That's okay. I mean, I think he'll be around a while. I think, I mean, the thing is, well, I know for me, it was like, yeah, he has one of the greatest smiles that for fans. And I loved that. Right. So I'm sorry that we'll miss that part for sure. And like you said, just seeing him play on the field for sure. Let's talk about a report that came out, just the other day on 3 Down Nation. Wade Miller was saying that each team has a plan to have fans at games, and that season ticket holders should probably hear more in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Was the quote. Plans, of course, will be different in every location. Some will have less fans, some will have more, depending on their capacities and what their health authority is allowing. There'll be less concessions. Overall, mandatory masks, other than for eating, and a whole bunch more sanitizing stations are the stuff that they were talking about that would be happening in Winnipeg. How do you guys feel about that? I think that this is still going to be a little ways off, but are you comfortable if they say, okay, these things are in place? Are you comfortable in going back to the stadium? And I'm going to start with you, Sheldon, this time.
I've always said, like I've been saying since the beginning of this pandemic, put me a mask, I'll go to the stadium. And it's probably true, but I shudder at the thought of, thousands of people being in there. But as for my job, I work across the street from Mosaic Stadium at a business that gets booming on Rider game days. So I'm looking forward to that again. But it's cautiously, like I would be there, I think. But again, it's something that might not be such an issue in other markets. But how do you decide when there's 28,000 season ticket holders who gets to be the 5,000 that get to go to each game, right? So that is the thing that I'm kind of more thinking about, is how they're going to decide that. And then you have 20,000 people pissed off, right? So
yeah. I think no matter how you do it, it's going to get that. You're going to have a bit of that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Steph, what do you feel like?
Give me some money back from my season ticket, put me in the far top corner, and I'm there.
Okay.
That's where I am already.
They're going to have to space people out. That's fine. And if I can't sit in my seats, don't make me pay for my full seat, but put me in the top corner where no one wants to be.
Right.
Lots of air going around me, because they'll probably all try to sneak lower. Give me my mask. I've got a cowbell.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Kayla, how do you feel about that?
I'm with Steph.
Okay.
Put me in the stadium. Let's go. I avoid people on the daily, so I know how to get around Commonwealth by not being around people. That's not an issue. And my seats are already in the second level. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
Okay. Perfect. Greg, I know you're not near a stadium, but if you had the opportunity, would you be going?
If I tell you what, if there were a game up in Toronto, I'd have no problem going, because social distancing is not going to be a problem up there.
Okay. Fair. Unfair shot, but still okay. All right.
Well,
I said the same about the dinos. So
okay. All right. Well then, okay. That's good.
It's not an it's when we've all watched the TV and we've all looked and going, and there's like 5 people. Across
bad seating.
Across the field from the camera.
All the fans sit on the side where the cameras are, so they don't get to actually see that they're full on that side. It's an unfortunate camera placement.
True. Now, with that said, being in Chicago, we all know all about, especially here on the South Side at Sox Park. So it's the same. We have the same deal down here. So, but yeah, no. I mean, me personally, I would not have a problem going to a game at all. But it's just like anything else. We're in uncharted territory here for all of us. So, I mean, you remember when all this first started, we were all kind of, I'm sure you guys were as well as I, just even being close to people you didn't know, and this was even before we had to put on masks. So once the mask rule came in, I think we all learned, but once the vaccinations start taking place, the numbers start going down. Personally, I wouldn't have a problem. But with that said, I think we're at least, again, a year or two away from being back to normal.
Of course. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I look at it right now and go, well, I live in Alberta, so there's a lot of weird people. So I'm not sure. I go back and forth on how comfortable I would be going to a stadium right now. If I knew that there was a higher percentage of people vaccinated and all those types of things, then I might feel a little more comfortable. But I know that I'd really want to see, okay, how are you doing this? What is the logistics of this? Yeah. So I'm curious to see if he says in 6 to 8 weeks, these season ticket holders are going to be hearing about things. Okay, tell me what it's going to be. Right. I've said I want to be one of the first people there, mask on, yippee, give me my space, and that's fine. But I wouldn't take my kids.
Right. I agree.
Do you know what I mean? Like because I'm not sure that that's the best part for them to be in, right? So
yeah.
And
I'll just say one more thing. And I don't mean to take up too much time, but you would think by now they would have at least thrown a plan out there and told everybody.
Well, to some degree, yes, but I think the reason that it still needs approval from all the health authorities.
Right.
And I know in Alberta, they're really watching what the Oilers and Flames are doing before the football teams are saying, okay, well, let's try this. Right. So I think they're kind of letting that play out before we know for sure. So yeah. Interesting. It was just an interesting comment.
Flames and the Stamps have the same ownership group. So I imagine, and this is conjecture from my part, but I imagine that they're focused really strongly. I know they have a plan to the health authority, but yeah, really watching what the Flames can get before they look at the Stamps. And if they let them into a closed arena, I think the Stamps have a really good argument to say open stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I know at Commonwealth, I mean, even at the best of games last year, we were only at 50% capacity. So there's lots of space.
Lots of room.
Yeah, there's still, we could still get a ton of people in there. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Let's go to the topic that we focused on a couple of weeks ago, but is the one topic that is now making sure that everyone is talking about CFL throughout all of March, probably more talking in March than we've had in the entirety of the CFL. The CFL, XFL chats.
The new March Madness.
Yeah. That might be the title of the podcast. The new March Madness. I like that. So we don't know what's going to happen with this. Obviously lots of things being tossed around. Is it a merger? Is it player sharing? Is it marketing sharing? Is it promoting each other's leagues? How are we going to do this? But The Rock, and I know we talked about this on YouTube, Sheldon, you mentioned this too, that The Rock did respond to a tweet saying that we'll figure out a smart season that'll create phenomenal opportunities for players and the best experience for fans. So two things that I see about that. He's following it, for one thing, so he is paying attention. And two, I found that I know that comment is very generic, but it sounds more like no matter whether it's XFL separate or CFL, XFL together or whatever, it sounds like he's bringing in his marketing to say, okay, no matter what it is, we have to change some things to make this better for players and fans. Does anybody else catch anything different out of that? Sheldon, I'll start with you this time.
No, yeah, I think it shows he's invested. And honestly, every time he tweets anything about the CFL or the XFL, I don't know how many followers he has, but
well over 2 million, I believe.
Yeah, so he's getting that. That's more than any CFL game outside of the Grey Cup is going to get. So, viewership, right? So he's getting their name out there, which is great. So I don't know exactly what's happening or what's going to happen, but this free publicity that The Rock is giving the CFL is awesome right now.
Yeah, I know. And I said this on YouTube. Could you imagine The Rock retweeting a highlight from a CFL game for people to be like, holy, that's amazing. It might change some opinions on what this league is, right? Like that would be pretty cool. Smitty, what are you thinking about that?
Well, I was thinking about this today as we were, kind of prepping before I came on. I'm working on the podcast, the one I'm planning on, and a quote from Mrs. Sunny Werblin came to mind.
Wow, that's a
way
deep pull.
back when she was having a drink with Joe Namath, and she said to Joe Namath, "Football's just show business." And there's a lot of truth into that. So I think, the XFL before McMahon, actually, when McMahon had the XFL, it was a joke down here, plain and simple.
Right.
It was the butt of every joke. Since he bought it, nobody down here has heard about it. So, but now that once he starts making waves, once he starts putting stuff out of CFL content, yeah, it's going to benefit both leagues, but I think you're going to see at least the attention down here gravitate more towards the XFL. Okay, towards the CFL. But with that said, he's trying to put the Snyderverse back together. If you caught that, so if he's able to do that, then I think the CFL is going to be okay with him. So, but there is an element of truth in it. I mean, football is kind of show business, and if he can bring that to the league and bring attention, I think it ultimately, and again, not in the short term, but I think in the long term, that's going to mean a lot.
That's fair. Steph, how are you feeling up there? I don't know. I know you're worried. You mentioned that on the YouTube live for sure. And if you haven't caught it, go back, listen to that. But what do you think about all this?
I'm trying to hold off and not think of all of the problems that I've heard that people like, oh, well, we can have a March to August season and, we don't need 3 downs. We can go to 4 downs. Like, I have a lot of issues. So I'm trying to wait and hear what we actually get. I just see a lot of problems if there's an actual merger. If we're talking about player movement, if we're talking about marketing, that's awesome. And I really wish I remember who said it, but if The Rock really cared about the CFL, he could buy the Lions.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And he hasn't.
That's true. Yeah.
It's does he really have the CFL's best interest at heart? And it's hard to say that he actually does. So I will hold off and try not to get too negative about it until we actually hear more. But like I said, I just hope that it's not the end of the CFL.
Right. I think the one thing that I did hear, I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about the XFL when it's come out. It's always been trying to do football a little differently. So maybe they are gravitating to go, well, maybe they adopt a 3-down game. Honestly, we have no idea, but you could see where they might look and go, well, if we want to be something different,
right.
This game is still super exciting. The CFL game is super exciting. It's fast. It's, it's big field, less chances to get 10 yards. Maybe there's a gravitation to pull that way, and then they take some of the other dimensions away, and who knows? But I just, like I said, I'm trying to keep an open mind on the entire thing and then see what they come back with and say, here's we go. And then I can go, yes, I love it. Or what the hell did you do? There's lots of opportunity to be either way. Kayla, we obviously didn't get to talk to you about it last week. So what are you thinking about all this?
Well, I'd like to point out that he has 15 million subs on Twitter, or followers.
Was it 15 million?
15.
Oh,
over
wow.
15 million.
Okay. So that was more than I thought. Okay.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what to think. I'm on the fence because I can see the positives and like Steph, I can see the negatives. I think my overall biggest concern, if just in a merger perspective, is it worth losing the CFL culture? Because I personally find when it comes to more of an American football community that it's more of a takeover than it is like they would take on the Canadian football. That's just kind of my impression that I would get. It wouldn't really be the CFL. It would just be the XFL now with CFL teams. That's just how my gut kind of goes. And the one thing that I love about the CFL is the culture and the community. And I would never want to lose that, because that's one of the reasons why I love this game so much. So yes, it might save the CFL, talking merger-wise, but what would be the cost? Like, would we even have CFL anymore anyway? Or would it just be the teams? So I don't know. It really depends on what way they want to go, and there's so many avenues, and it's pretty vague right now. So I'm kind of like Steph, I want to hold off on my opinions because I really can't make any without more information. But that's just the one thing that scares me the most is, well, maybe we save the CFL, but is it really going to be the CFL?
Fair point. Absolutely. They were talking this week that there would be a possible $100 million TV dollar deal if they combined. Now, what I found interesting is that as soon as you see that number, you think, whoa, like what a TSN deal I think is 50?
52 something?
52, something like that. But then I actually looked at the math and it was like, okay, well right now, so each team gets somewhere in the realm of 5.3, I think it is, million a year out of that TV deal. But if you increase all the teams and you go to 100 million, then everybody gets 7 million. So is it worth 2 million a team? Like, is that enough, or is that? I mean, that's still a fairly significant number. Don't get me wrong, but is that enough to make it worthwhile?
I would say no, but
yeah, I would too.
Okay.
Well.
Go, come on, Smitty, jump in there.
When they say this $100 million deal, now I'm looking at it again. I'm looking at it from American eyes going, okay, so what does that really mean? Now, does that $100 million for, let's just say, 17 teams or 18 teams? Okay. Right. And, we know that there's a Canadian audience for CFL games. We know that, but the question is, what about the viewers down here? Who are they? First of all, where on the channel? Which network would it be, and where on the channel would it be down here? Right. Because $100 million sounds good, but we all know what the NFL got. And again, I even hate even saying the word NFL. But unfortunately, that's the reality. The CFL and the XFL all have to live with is that it is the evil, is what I like to call the evil empire, because so I think 100 million is great, but again, it's at what cost? And to go with what Kayla said, I as a CFL fan do not want to lose a 3-down game.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it is much more exciting than the 4-down game. And as much as I love football just in general, if I have to pick between the two, give me the 3-down game any day. Right. But again, I'm among a very small minority down here who knows anything about the 3-down game. So I think for the CFL and XFL to survive and thrive, I think they're really, honestly, in my opinion, they're going to have to go to a 3-down game, because they have to set themselves apart from everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want to be NFL light, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing, over the weekend, I read the book on border wars about the first CFL attempt down here. Well, and the thing is with, I read a lot of football history. There's so many examples of what not to do that I think moving forward, I would hope everybody has read up and learned from the past. They're not going to make the same mistakes going forward. And plus, too, we live in a different day and age with streaming. We have the CFL stadiums. We have darn near regulation size stadiums down here. So I don't see why the 3-down game can't work. But it boils down to kind of what I said before: marketing and you got to kind of pump up the show business side of the sport down here, because, you know, I know people down here don't even pay attention to sports unless there's a personality attached. Chicago is a good example. Without Michael Jordan, nobody's watching the Bulls. Nobody really cares about the Bulls.
Right.
You got to have stars.
As long as they don't turn it into "he hate me," I mean, whatever, then we're fine. That's because we don't. Even though I know he did play in the CFL. Anyway, that's good. Sheldon, you look like you got something you're going to say there. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think it's also like, where did they get this $100 million figure? Because when XFL 2.0 started, like, they didn't get any money for TV. They, like, the networks were playing it for free, I believe, and then the AAF was actually paying to get their games put on TV. So I'm skeptical of that $100 million mark. I don't know if the only thing is changing a partnership with the CFL, let's say, how is the CFL worth $100 million to the states?
Fair.
So I don't know if that's a realistic figure or not. It'd be nice, I guess, but I agree. I don't know if it's enough of if $2 million a team, I don't know if that's enough of a bump to make it worthwhile or not. But if that means football in Regina, Saskatchewan, I'm going.
That's fair. That's fair. Speaking of talking about TV deals and those types of ideas, one thing that again came out on 3 Down, I think it was yesterday, they were talking about a streaming service for football that is like the One Soccer one that they have, that is kind of run more in conjunction with the Canada Soccer Association. That would be like a subscription service, like a $70 a year service or whatever, and it probably would only show a few live CFL games streaming, because the rights, of course, are held by TSN. But it could branch into more in-depth analysis about the league. It could cover CJFL. It could cover U Sports. It could even give a spot for U Sports to actually be streamed on a fairly regular basis, because that doesn't happen, right? Like, and how are we supposed to know these guys that are going to be coming up into the league? And this is basically what this One Soccer streaming service did. And then maybe just get involved a little bit with Football Canada and do some backstories, like do some behind the scenes things with CFL players, like a fun, game show with CFL players, or I don't know. So I'm throwing stuff off the wall. And I'm sure if they're doing behind the scenes stuff with CFL players, Moss would be ecstatic about that. But anyway, What do you guys think of having something like that? And if it was something like that, it's not specifically, set for CFL games, but it's kind of the build up to what would be CFL games, and maybe it involves the CFL, but it involves some of these other Canadian leagues. Would you sign up? Is that another way to get some revenue? Steph, I'll start with you because I know how much you love U Sports.
I wish you could see. I have my custom Dinos mini helmet.
I do see it. Yes. It is pretty.
I wish I could have got the real thing. They sold out.
Oh.
We pay for streaming for Canada West football already.
Okay.
So it's almost impossible to follow the OWA and the AUS. Like we would love to. And I know that John will watch more than I do because he just consumes a lot more football. Yeah. But the likelihood that you could get all conferences to actually agree is almost zero.
Okay.
And
fair.
I wish they would, because I would get just a U Sports football package.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be happy. But the fact that we even get Canada West is almost kind of impressive.
But do you think if the CFL kind of ran the point on this to try and bring them together, do you think that would make any difference in trying to band together Canadian football?
I wish. You know what? Maybe you could figure out a way that the universities would be happy, but the bureaucracy for universities is just insane. So
fair.
I think it's a bit of a pipe dream, but I would love it.
Okay. Sheldon, what do you think of that idea?
Yeah, no, I think I think it's actually a really great idea. When I first read the article, I thought that Josh was looking for just, something to take over, and then, everyone jumped on him for where are you going to get this revenue from that TSN loses. But no, if they had some like cool CFL content, and then highlight, like especially like leading up to the combine, you could have a lot more film that us fans could take in. You could have live combine on that streaming service. I think if they could get their ducks in a row, that it would be hugely successful, and it would be great for growing the game. I would definitely $70.
I was just gonna say, take my money. Like it wouldn't even think twice. Yeah, that would be an easy one for me. Smitty, would you, if it was available in the States, would you jump on that?
Well, let's see.
Oh, don't lie to me. Just say yes.
Where have I heard? Oh, yeah. They've got it down here called the NFL now. Of course I'd pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
That's what, and that's, you know what? And I've been saying that for years. And, and Mike and I have had these conversations. If the CFL if the CFL had their own CFL films, real CFL films, and I'll gladly sell them the domain name because I own CFLfilms.ca. But that's what they need to do. And I know I would pay for it, but again, the average, person, would they pay for it? I don't know. I mean, do you guys have the NFL Network up there?
I think you can get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it comes standard on my package down here. So, and all the other colleges down here, all the other, you got the Big Ten Network, SEC. So they're all out. I mean, so that's just something where I think that the CFL has completely dropped the ball on in promoting the sport up there. Football Canada really should be the point person on this.
Right. Yeah. I can see that.
Football Canada, and I've put it out there on Twitter, and it's been nothing but crickets. But, the startup costs for doing something like that are minuscule, especially with the way the world is now. Mm-hmm. I mean, the world is, as Larry Wilmore once said, the revolution it won't be televised anymore, but it will be streamed.
Well, I mean, we all just did streaming an hour ago, so we know that 4 or 5 people just sitting in their basements can talk on YouTube. So they got to be able to set something up that wouldn't be terribly costly, but people would still pay for it. It's content at this point.
And that's the great thing about being a CFL fan in the States, because being an NFL fan in the States is one thing. But it's the fan element that is the reason why I love the CFL.
Awesome.
Because of this, kicking out your own content on YouTube, and being a fan, and you don't, so the CFL needs to take advantage of what they already have going in terms of the podcasters who are streaming, and putting that all together. And I just think they're missing the boat. They really should do it.
Did you just give a plug for us to have a show on the streaming service? Because I really appreciate that. That's very good of you. Thanks, Smitty. Yeah. You can come back anytime, man. You're welcome. Kayla, I'm pretty sure I already know that you're going to be handing over your dollars, but what do you think of this idea? Yeah, exactly. Not a video podcast, but we do appreciate that. Right. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
of course. Like, my subscription always changes when football comes, like with DAZN. Mm-hmm. Sign up when NFL starts. I know it's not a huge NFL Smitty, but I need my Saints. I need my Saints in my life. I thoroughly enjoy watching the Golden Bears during their season. And if that can be a part of a larger streaming service, and if we can't go to the games this year and the university starts play, like, I would love that opportunity to still take in some college football and some CFL and like have in-depth analysis. Are you kidding me? I would love to learn more. Like, I'm still pretty new when it comes to football. Like, I have so much to learn still, and to have that opportunity from different football clubs, that'd be amazing.
I agree.
Give me football.
Yeah, and a channel where you can go and learn the history of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great too.
I mean,
Mike just passed out when you said that. He's so excited. Yeah. It's good. Yeah, a history channel.
Football history channel. Did you? football history to me is the most interesting history because it not only encompasses football, but encompasses the times we live in. Mm-hmm. And, it would be nice to see. I mean, the CFL's only put out a few documentaries. Mm-hmm. Engraved on the Nation. It was one of my all-time favorites.
Amazing, yeah.
And the Tradition series. But, the CFL, and that's the CFL. That's how the CFL is going to grow. They got to market themselves the way the other leagues do, the NBA, the MLB, NHL. So
and they can market from that history. We have this rich history of the Grey Cup that we can, right. And I think that's kind of started with the whole Mark's Grey Cup streaming stuff on the site. Just let's build on that. There's ways to make this better, right? I would totally get behind that. Put classic games on. Come on, put Schulte back on the TV and show those classic games. I'd be okay with that. Right? So bringing it all the way around. Well, you guys, this has been amazing. Thank you for the conversation tonight. I really appreciate it. I want to get where we can find you all, but before that, we are going to pay some of our own bills by saying this episode is also brought to you by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider in Alberta, offering internet, electricity, and natural gas with low rates, awesome service, and profit sharing with local charities. In Alberta, you get to choose who to buy your internet, electricity, and natural gas from. If you choose Park Power, you are choosing a positive local business. Plus, Park Power shares its profits with local not-for-profits that are working to make a difference for their communities. Shopping local is very important to Park Power's owner, Chris Kozowski, and we love local with the Alberta Podcast Network. You can learn more at parkpower.ca. I also want to make sure that we let you guys know that we do have the new podcast t-shirts are in the Turf District t-shirts. Kayla, I will get yours to you soon. Because we're a little far apart, but we'll figure it out.
A little bit.
We are kind of working on a date to get like a pickup spot where people can come pick up their shirts, working along with Janelle to try and have some yummy cupcakes at the same time. Shirts are $25 with $10 going to the Dwayne Mandrusiak Legacy Fund for Amateur Football, which of course is through the Edmonton Community Foundation. So we'll get some information out there for you guys soon, and let us know if you can show up to that. Before we go, let's find out where we can find all of you online and all of your fun things. Sheldon, let's start with you and tell us all about your fancy paintings as well.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Sheldon Jones 83, on Instagram, Sheldon Spins. I just saw, the trend that happened on TikTok with the spin art, and then I saw a couple people doing some CFL stuff. Ryan in Calgary and Bomber fan Ted in Winnipeg, and actually me and Bomber fan have been DM buddies for quite some time with it. I pulled the trigger finally on doing it, and it's fun. It's therapeutic. You just spray a bunch of paint on a canvas, attach it to a drill, and let her go.
Awesome.
I've had a few people ask me to do some custom stuff. I don't just do sports stuff, but check out my Instagram. I am selling them if people want to buy them. I've made a couple custom orders, $30 a piece, or if you want to get a couple, we can wager a little bit there. But check me out.
That's fantastic. And thanks, man, for taking the time tonight. Like I said, I know we were chatting on Twitter the other day, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. It was fantastic.
It's been awesome. I love it. I can't wait to do more, hopefully with some other places maybe.
Yeah, well, and we'll have you back. We'll have you back so we can bug you more about your hat and all. It's great. That's what we do. Smitty, let's go to you. Where does everybody find you?
All right. You can find me at Twitter at CFL America, and on the web at cflamerica.ca. And hopefully soon, my friend Scott Adamson, whose book I completely botched at the beginning of the show. His book is called The Home Team, My Bromance with Off-Brand Football by Scott Adamson. It's available on Amazon.com, and nice. We will be starting a podcast hopefully within the next few weeks on football history books. So.
Fantastic, and we will catch up with you more on that when those come out, and we'll share that so people can find that as well. Thank you for being here, as always.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Stephanie, where does everybody find the great and wonderful Stephanie from the Horsemen?
So at Twitter, it's at S_Huds16. You can hear me on the CFL Horseman podcast whenever Ryan gets that out. We're going to start doing some Zooms so we can actually start recording again because, a year-long break is way too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. We're excited to see that. And on Instagram, you're at
S_Head16.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Which is honestly, it's mostly my food pictures.
Okay. Well,
I enjoy those.
We can all enjoy food pictures. That's right. Commissioner, where does everybody find you?
On Twitter at Duchess Lombardi.
Perfect. And then, of course, I do want to mention as well, Pay It Forward with Football. They now got their non-profit status, which is very, very cool. That is
so cool.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And they're actually having an online auction right now to help fundraise. So check out their Facebook page at Pay It Forward with Football. And I know they had some signed Freddie gloves on there just recently. They were very pretty. So lots to go after. So follow those guys and support Quentin and Samantha, and of course Calvin now as he's part of their family. Lots of great shows, of course, coming out on the CFPN these days. So catch up on all of the CFL news at cfpodnetwork.ca. And of course, like Stephanie said, there's a new Horseman coming at some point that is going to be extremely long as they talk about all the things on Zoom. So make sure that you set aside lots of time, although you can pause podcast and then come back and listen to our friends down south. Of course, join in and check out all of the great shows on the Alberta Podcast Network at albertapodcastnetwork.com. And you can join us and all of our huddles at the Turf District on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk any new signings and any new CFL news. And if you actually were to combine our old iteration and our new iteration, that will be our 200th show. So we are going to be looking at having a little fun between Superfan and Kayla and I in a couple of weeks. So we hope you can join us for that. So thank you again to all of you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So for Sheldon, Stephanie, Smitty, Commissioner K, and Superfan Mike, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.